Hey guys, Dr. Hampton here again with some important insights that I'm going to share with you because I have a wonderful guest again here, Nina Teicholz, who's the executive director of the Nutrition Coalition and has really devoted her life to making sure that nutrition policy is evidence-based. She's also a best-selling author of The Big Fat Surprise and really help us understand that fat is not harming us. It's really other things like sugar and starch. But I really wanted her to come to share her thoughts about why the dietary guidelines don't really serve communities of color. Being a person from that community, being a doctor who serves that community, I think it's really important that the information we give our patients are evidence-based and based on real science, because if we don't do that, we actually harm them. So Nina, give me your thoughts on why the dietary guidelines does not serve communities of color.
Yeah, this is an issue that I've become aware of recently and have become quite concerned about. The dietary guidelines, as many of you know, is what all doctors learn in medical school, and it is what is taught by all nurses, nutritionists. I mean, everybody learns and teaches the dietary guidelines. It is also the policy that determines what is served in the nutrition assistance programs, they're called. But those are school lunches, school breakfast, women and infant children program, the SNAP program. All the education around that is based on trying to follow the guidelines. Feeding programs for the elderly. And we know that those programs are more used by communities of color. They're more in need. And those communities are also suffering higher rates, in some cases far higher rates, of diet-related chronic diseases. So for instance, among African-American women, the obesity rate has reached 50%. This is obesity, not just overweight. So this is this is a population that is very much in need of good nutritional guidance. And yet the dietary guidelines they deliver advice only for healthy people. And when I say that, I mean they only are for the prevention of disease. They do not review the science on treatment. They have not looked at the science in this last go around of any of the science on weight loss. They're not looking at the science that exists now on how to put type 2 diabetes in remission. That science is not considered by the dietary guidelines because it considers treatment to be a separate category. However, they still base their food and deliver this food to these populations who are diagnosed with these diseases and yet are receiving food for healthy people. So what is an example of how this is a terrible mismatch. And how does that play out? Well, for instance, in the dietary guidelines requires 6 servings of grains per day, and altogether more than 50% of calories is carbohydrates, 50 to 54% of calories is carbohydrates. That is not tolerable for somebody with type 2 diabetes, right, or really obesity. I mean, or heart disease that will drive up your triglycerides and will lower your HDL cholesterol. So we're signs of worsening heart disease risk. So these populations who desperately need the appropriate food for them are simply not getting it from the dietary guidelines. So this is something I'm quite concerned about. I think we should all be concerned about that.
Yeah, I agree. It breaks my heart. That's why I did write an op-ed in the Chicago Tribune to talk about this a little bit. I'll probably have a link to that in the show notes. I'll probably even have a link to the Nutrition Coalition, which is doing great work to help open our eyes to these realities. And it's really something I really wanted to bring to the forefront. And guys, if you're out there and you're trying to get good advice, the dietary guidelines is just not going to get the job done. So again, we'll share some links, some evidence to support that. But I think it's really incumbent upon us to actually express this to you. So we talk a little bit more in detail when me and Nina do our podcast episode. It was number 29, and Nina shared a lot of additional talking points I think will be helpful. So I want you guys to check that out. I want you guys to provide commentary in the show notes to, let us know if you feel like the dietary guidelines have served you. And if you don't think it served you, share that information as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video, and just know that we are here to just provide clarity. And I hope that the information Nina shared today does just that. So until we meet again, first of all, Nina, thank you again for sharing your talking. Appreciate you. And I always ask my audience to be safe and to be well. And of course, continue to protect their nest.